Welcome to Sounds of Resistance channel. In the 8th month of the Ukraine-Russian war, the conditions of the war began to deteriorate for the Russians, as the unimaginable achievements of the Ukrainian heroes accelerated the withdrawal of the Russians from the Ukrainian territory. Vladimir Putin's treacherous plans gradually began to fail, while the Russian leader Putin focuses on counterattacks in Ukraine's northeast and east. Ukraine's southern front continues to boil like a witch's cauldron. While the Ukrainian President Zelensky announced that the operations would continue until all the invading troops were driven out of the country's borders, the oppressive attacks of the Ukrainian army greatly eroded Putin's army. In this way, Russian troops inevitably inflicted huge casualties on both the eastern and southern fronts. Russian leader Vladimir Putin, on the other hand, focused on the southern regions, ignoring Ukraine's eastern front in order to prevent these losses. But this risky decision of the Ukrainian leader cost the Russian army dearly, because the brave Ukrainian army continued its operation plans simultaneously on the southern fronts, which they started when the Russian troops were overwhelmed by Ukraine on the eastern fronts and pushed them to the border. Thus, the Russian troops who were under the grip of two regions could not find a place to escape and then started to surrender to the Ukrainian army. During this process, many military equipment in the Russian army inventory was wasted. In addition, the Russian army, which could not breathe as a result of the Ukrainian counterattacks, lost many of its soldiers for this cause. Now, if we take into account the hot developments on the southern front of Ukraine, we see that the heroes of Ukraine inflict pain on the Russian troops, especially in the Kherson region. Thanks to the great liberation operations designed by the top generals of the Ukrainian army, the Russian troops trapped in Kherson are forced to flee without looking back, in panic. While the world agenda focuses on the Kherson region on Ukraine's southern front, Ukrainian President Zelensky said that, as a result of these operations, 500 square kilometers of land in the south of Ukraine, including the Kherson region, has been liberated since the beginning of October. The steady advance of Ukraine created panic among Russian-appointed officials in the occupied areas of Kherson, while the number of Russian soldiers who wanted to surrender in the face of this miraculous progress of the Ukrainian heroes or left the front to not fight, the number of Russian soldiers who still wanted to serve for the Russian army in the Russian administration became the target for the Ukrainian government. Those who want to work for the Russians are seen by Kiev as traitors and collaborators and could face serious punishment if caught. Even though the numbers of these people are small, they are considered as a threat by the Ukrainian government, and those who want to serve for this Russia, which poses a threat as soon as possible, become the primary target of the Ukrainian army. Fearing Ukrainian reprisals, managers in Nova Kakhovka confiscated 12 vans to evacuate themselves and their families to Crimea. The effect of the statement made by the Ukrainian government for the Russian administrators and personnel who worked for Russia and still did not give up on the war began to spread very quickly. The managers in Nova Kakhovka who wanted to seize 12 buses and escape reveal the best examples of this situation. The Russian officials present here are now described as Putin's henchmen. According to some rumors, Russian leader Vladimir Putin pays executives and other staff members at Nova Kakhovka much more than usual. It is expected that these personnel who work for the Russian government for the sake of money will eventually give up their goals and leave Crimea. At present, there has already been activity in Crimea on this issue. On this issue, the Ukrainian General Staff noted in its latest bulletin, "The enemy and his henchmen flee, fearing the success of the Ukrainian Defense Forces. Representatives of the occupying authorities of Nova Kakhovka are taking their families to the temporarily occupied Ukrainian territory of the Autonomous Republic of Crimea." According to the information, a convoy of 12 minibuses departed for the city of Sevastopol on October 7. Since these words of the Ukrainian General Staff made the Russian henchmen in Crimea much more uneasy, it is estimated that the escape from Crimea will accelerate. Russian traitors in Crimea who started their escape movement in a convoy began to wait for orders from Putin in the following processes, but it is also rumored that the heroic army of Ukraine has plans to attack or infiltrate. Considering Nova Kakhovka, the town has a hydroelectric dam and is one of the key locations for the Dnipro River, making this area a priority for the Ukrainian army. In particular, the Nova Kakhovka Bridge is one of the two bridges that the Russian army can use to supply its 25,000 soldiers on the west bank of the river. The other, the Antonovsky Bridge in the city of Kherson, was almost rendered unusable by the HIMARS attacks. The capture of Nova Kakhovka is in a critical position, as it will actually cut off the supplies of the Russian troops on the west bank and lead to inevitable defeat, and as we have mentioned, it is under the target of the Ukrainian government and the heroic Ukrainian army. In addition, the reservoir in the hydroelectric power plant behind the dam is vital for Crimea as a source of fresh water. For this reason, any operation that the heroes of Ukraine can organize in this region is capable of inflicting a heavy blow on the Russians. The reservoir in the region allows fresh water to flow from the North Crimean Canal to the southern regions of Ukraine and the peninsula. With Ukraine's domination of this canal road, both the Crimean side and the regions on the canal road can be dominated by the heroes of Ukraine. If the Russian troops in this area retreat over the dam, they will have to leave all their heavy vehicles behind. On the other hand, if the Russian troops pull over the inlets, they will have to abandon most of their vehicles for lack of fuel. And if the Russians retreat on the inlets, the Ukrainians can cross the Dnipro and establish a bridgehead on the left bank from which they can attack the Crimea and Melitopol. In addition, if the Russians take this option, the Ukrainian army can also cut off the water of the Crimea at Kakhovka. In short, the Russians have only bad options for this region. In all likelihood, Ukrainian heroes are expected to profit in this region. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command recently reported that Russian forces continue to bombard areas along the line of contact to prevent Ukraine's advance. However, it is clear that the Russians could not gain any gain as a result of these attacks because the Russian forces are carrying out these attacks especially in order to withdraw from the southern region. The Russians are also said to have set up new defensive lines in the Borislav and Nova Kakhovka areas. The reason for this situation is seen as attempts to increase the resistance against Ukraine attacks that are planned to take place in the future. The Ukrainian army now seems to have established a serious dominance in the southern regions. In the measures taken by Russian leader Vladimir Putin are the best pictures of the Russians' agony in the south of Ukraine. It will not come as a surprise that there will be quite violent conflicts in the southern part of Ukraine, especially in Kherson and its environs in the future. We will witness the developments in the southern region of Ukraine with you. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to be informed about new videos. Thank you for watching us. Stay cool for now.